All right, without much ado, we'll go into the nitty-gritty of today's episode. We'll first of all look at uh, the salary increase of judicial workers. Barasobia may have on several occasions on this show advocated for the increment of the salaries of judicial workers, as one of the means to curb corruption and enable them not to be, of course, some people have described some judges as cash and carry, judges. And of course, you've advocated that one of the ways to curb that is to make sure that their salaries are reasonable and respectable. And I'm sure the House of Representatives have listened to your advocacy and they are doing something about it. So what do you have to say in the recent development concerning that aspect?
It's a good development that the House of Representatives has taken the shot by going ahead to increase the salary of judicial workers. But then that appears not to be the end of the story. What we need in Nigeria is a holistic reform of the judicial system. Increment in salary is very commendable because we know that judiciary is the mainstay of any democratic dispensation. The courts are the ones that hold the pillars of democracy. So it is good that judicial officers are well paid because they do a lot of work. And that will also ensure that they don't fall into the temptation of getting money that is not meant for them through corrupt means. So it's a good thing, and we've had time in the past to look at the salaries of Nigerian judges vis-a-vis of their counterparts in US, in UK, and so on. But why I say that that's not the end of the story is this. What the House of Representatives ought to do is to do a proper reform of our judicial system. You'll agree with me that in Nigeria today, the average Nigerian does not have much confidence in the judicial system. And there are a lot of factors that are causative factors. One of the reasons for this is that the long delays in court cases, the long time it takes for cases to be concluded, then the issue, which of course we'll still come to later, of disobedience of orders of court. The fact that the system is still subject to manipulations, let me use that word, manipulations, especially when it comes to court records. So what I am suggesting and advocating is, one, that in addition to increasing the salary of the workers, let there be institutional expansion, expand the courtrooms, expand and engage more hands. We know that in Nigeria, the courts are courts of the federal government and that of the states. The Federal High Court is the court of first instance as far as the federal government is concerned. Of course, we still have the National Industrial Court, then the arbitration panel and others. Then at the state level, we have the High Court and others. Then there is need to increase judicial officers because Nigeria is a country of about 200 million people. If you look at the number of judges, they are not enough. So there's need to increase the number of judges. Again, there's need for continuing judicial education. There should be trainings and retraining of judges. There's also need to ensure that the facilities, modern facilities that are intended with the current digital age are supplied to the judicial officers so that it will make their work easy and make justice delivery more transparent. In some places, especially in Lagos, there are courts that they just have automatic recording devices that when you are giving evidence in court, devices will automatically recording what you're saying. It doesn't depend on what the judge puts down on longhand. And that will eliminate the barriers, the issue of controversies as to what the person said or what he did not say. So just need to do a proper general overhaul, because you see, go to some courts in Nigeria, judges still write in longhand. Why should that be at this age? So there must be a proper overhaul of our judicial system.
All right, there must be a proper overhaul of our judicial system. Barrister Deji Olale, of course, as part of the judicial reform, of course, they said the journey of 1,000 miles must always start with one step. I'm sure that one of those steps is the increment of the salaries of judicial workers. I'm sure lawyers should be smiling on this one, especially the justices and the judges, because mere looking at the list here is almost as if it's like a jumbo pay, you know, for judicial. Of course, the Chief Justice will be receiving as much as 5-6 million every month when you look at the allowances and everything. So I think that is a step in the right direction in the ongoing judicial reform, because some people have argued that financial independence is also part of the issues we are having with the judiciary.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. I want to say, first and foremost, that no amount is too much to pay our judges, and there's no salary that is ever adequate to pay judges for the kind of work that they do, the hazardous work that they do. Particularly when you look at the salary of judges within the context of the concept of independence of the judiciary. It's just one aspect of the independence of the judiciary. Financial autonomy is much more bigger a subject than even the question of salary that the National Assembly is tackling now. But kudos to them that they have taken this initiative, at least to be able to improve the kind of services and the opportunities that our judges have. If you actually look at the proposed salary, you discover that it's pittance when you consider it with global standards.
Yeah, but it's compared to what we were earning before.
Used to happen. Yes, that's why I say it's an improvement.
It's commendable.
Yes, it's commendable. It's an improvement. But if you look at the value of that money, even in dollars, you discover that it's a pittance. All right, but it's a good development for our judges, at least to be able to provide basic things that they need for them to do that job. But I will look at, just like my good brother have said, Ume, I will look at a more holistic judicial reform process being put in place. What we have right now is a very complex and cumbersome judicial process. A system that is inefficient. A system that is not giving back what is put into it.
Yeah, sorry about that,
yes.
Deji. Can you please expatiate in some of the judicial reform you might be proposing?
Well, just like Ume have mentioned almost all aspects, and I didn't want to just continue to go.
Yeah, because I'm sure that the lawmakers are listening.
Yes.
You know, we advocated for this increment, and we have seen it. So it's good that we
yes, I think the first point, the judicial autonomy of judges. We know that judges' salaries and the maintenance of the judiciary should be a first-line charge on the income of both the state and the federal government. And of course, the consolidated revenue fund that we have, there should be complete autonomy for the judges, the chief judges of the state, to be in control of their funding and their finance. What we have right now is that a lot of the incomes that come from or into the judiciary is paid to the state government, and the state government controls most of the income that is recycled from the filing of papers, some of the processes, and some of the administrative revenue collecting procedures or measures. So that should stop. The judges should be in control of whatever is coming to the judiciary, so that they can have enough fund to be able to take care of clerical and administrative costs that they have. There's no point you want to repair the courtroom, you have to go to the government, you have to go to the governor or the House of Assembly to be able to get money to do all that.
So there is always budget for the judicial arm of government.
But you discover that the budget is dispersed by the state. Most of the time, the budget is dispersed. They have to continue to hit on the state to be able to get what they need. Even the infrastructure facilities for the courts, as of today, it is the executive that handles that. You can see the problem we have in Lagos State after the burning of the High Court in Lagos State. Up till now, that building is not put in place because the government is the one in charge, and they probably don't understand the impact of putting that structure, all those structures in order. And just like my brother said also, the physical condition, the physical environment in which judges work, either in their personal homes or even in the courts. You can imagine a court is sitting and there is no fuel to power the gen for a judge, and somebody will switch, once it's 3 o'clock, they switch off the power system, and the whole court is put in darkness. That ought not to be. We have these experiences almost every day in the high courts. So I think it is more than just jumbo pay to judges. There are many more areas that needs to be dealt with. And the question of security of tenure also of judges is another aspect.
Security of tenants?
Yes.
Please can you expatiate?
Now, what do I mean? Like there is overbearing influence of even the executive in the administration of judicial process. Situations where governors influence appointments, influence promotion of judges, dictate who become judges, who becomes chief judge of the state. All those areas are areas of interference.
Yeah, you talk about security of tenure, because according to their civil servants,
you find also that some of the judges are coerced in their cases. There are external influence from governors. We know.
We're alleged. Because this is a national television. We cannot start making us substantiated.
And the inducement, the element of inducement also is there, where governors will have to buy gifts for judges, maybe jeeps, the car they are using, give them plots of land and all of that. And that's why you find that in most of our courts today, our judges are not bold enough.
But Barrister Deji, do you have instances of some of these allegations?
We have instances. Yes, we have instances. Even if it's a common knowledge, it's in the public domain that the governors do. In fact, some of the chief judge will tell you that unless I discuss with the governor, I cannot do this thing you are asking me to do. Some of the judges, chief judges, they will tell you that. And that it's like there is a control system by the executive over the judiciary in the state, and that ought not to be. And of course, you find situations also where some governors recommend even the certain disciplinary measures against judges, complaints about their judgments against the government, and all of that. That ought not to be. So these are some of the problems that we are having.
Yeah, but these problems you mentioned are not issues of law. These are issues of character and
administrative. Yes, some of it are administrative. But you see, the problem is there has to be a detachment of the judiciary from the executive. Anything that connects the judiciary to the executive should be severe. Like I've just mentioned, the provision of physical infrastructure for the courts and for the judges, and clerical materials, for the judges, provision of fuel to run the generators in the courts. These are not handled by the chief judge or the judges, whereas we have registrars who can as well handle those functions if there is independence of the judiciary. So, but right now, it is the executive that determines all that.
All right, Barrister Deji, it's the executive. Of course, you're talking about financial autonomy of the judiciary.
Yes.
It's part of the ongoing reform. Okay, so
yes.
Barrister...
yes, I still want to chip in something that it's always say that to whom much is given,
Exactly, I was
much
coming
is
there.
expected.
Now that the salary
Now that the salaries of the judicial officers have been increased, you know, far more than what it used to be, there's a corresponding duty and obligation on the judicial officers to show that with this increment, they will perform better. That is a fact of life. Those that had complaints over one thing or the other, they were not well paid and so on, it is now on them to show, yes, that we are now well paid and they need to do far, far better than what we've been seeing. Again, we believe also that it will curb corruption in its barest minimum. I recall some years ago when the current president of Nigeria was the governor of Lagos State, he increased the salary of judges and magistrates. That magistrates were earning as much as 1 million. I think maybe now it will be more than that. And with a caveat, any judge or magistrate who is found to have enriched himself or herself with corrupt money or any inducements of any sort will be shown the way out. And that happened. So if you pay judicial officers well, there's no reason for any of them to go outside the parameters of decency and start, collecting bribes or anything in order to tamper, to muzzle justice, mete out injustice because of money. Because he said that when money speaks, truth is silenced. The duty is on the judges to now show and again restore the confidence of Nigerian masses and of course the entire public in the judicial system. We know that even investors from the other parts of the world, if they don't seem to be at home with our judicial system, they don't agree with the way justice is done in this country, they will be reluctant. May decide never even to invest in this country. But if you know that a system is stable and that you can go to the court if there are issues and then get justice, then they will be minded to come. Because you compare our justice delivery system with that of other countries, you know that our judges still have a lot to do. You recall that there are some people here that were charged with criminal offenses, especially ex-governors, and there are courts who are still dilly-dallying when courts in England found them guilty. That the question is, does it mean that those judges there are better than Nigerian judges? The answer is no. It's just that sometimes, you see, we put into consideration things that not to be considered. When I'm talking of Nigerian judges, now Nigerian judges need to show that yes, what their counterparts in other parts of the world can do, they can do, and even better.
Okay. Yes. Let me also make a point to what he has said. Well, I don't believe that this salary increase is going to improve the performance of judges. And I will tell you why. Because, you see, it's not just the salary that is the impinging factor in the non-performance of judges. Where you don't provide the enabling environment for them to work well, for them to be able to perform and be efficient, all of that will come into play. We know there are many judges today in Lagos, this Lagos, don't have courts. Some share courts, even magistrates. There are magistrates that share, they go on sessions to be able to sit in this state. So, and there are many of these magistrates also that you find that they are not well paid. Even we are talking about judges now. But how about the magistrates who are daily handling some of the other issues that are summary matters or of summary jurisdiction? Those magistrates are not paid. Some of them, their cars are not well maintained. Some of them cannot live well. They don't have the kind of facility that you have given to the judges. So all of this come into play when you are talking about a holistic system until the entire system is reviewed and reformed.
Yes, Barrister Deji, that brings me to the question about what happens. Does this increment also affect the judges in the state, or is it limited to the judges of the federal courts? And if it is not, we also, should the state be expecting their own jumbo increments?
Well, the course is not very clear yet, but we expect that judges across the board,
both in the state.
The state, there should be a streamlining of federal judges and state judges.
Yeah, I'm asking, this bill, does it affect the state?
No.
No.
It does not.
It does not affect the state.
What the House of Representatives is doing is what will snowball into an act of the National Assembly, which is applicable to federal courts only, federal judges.
Yes.
Now, you discover that at the state level, different states pay different salaries
to judges.
Yes, there's no uniform structure. It depends on the state. Yes, because we know that Lagos State pays, well to judges in Lagos and magistrates, compared with some other states. There's still some other states that pay well, but what is going on presently is not extended to the states.
Yeah,
what we are saying is that, yes, that as the federal government is coming up with this to encourage judges to do more, there should be a corresponding reaction from the states in line with what the federal government is doing, so that the judges of the state can equally smile and also improve.
Yeah,
actually, let me say the process of appointing judges all over the country does not take cognizance of state or federal, because you will discover that the judges are all equal. Judges are appointed and their names are forwarded to the National Judicial Council, which will now look at it and consider them whether they are fit or not. So the appointing body is the same. The only difference is that,
for states,
both federal judges and state judges, the names are forwarded to the National Judicial Council, that appoints them ultimately. All right. So you find that judges all over the state, they are all equal. They are courts of coordinate jurisdiction. The only difference is in the matters that they handle. Like the Federal High Court, for instance, have some jurisdiction for the federal government, matters that relates to the federal government, while the state judges deals with state matters.
So are you saying that all the judges their salary should be equal?
The same salary all over the country, because the judges are equal. There's no basis for discriminatory salary between judges.
Yeah, because that question,
because all judicial officers,
why we ask that question is because we have seen some people go to some of the states, maybe Zamfara, to go and obtain ex parte orders where probably the judges are paid pittance, and you can easily give them something to get your judgment. So that is why it is very important for the states to also increase the pay.
The Constitution actually recognizes all judges as one. The Constitution says judicial officers, and they are referred to as one.
So, if I get what you are saying that it's a bit unconstitutional to have
disparity. That's exactly to have disparity of salaries among judges. It's it's not right, and that's one area that has to be breached.
Okay.
There should be equal status. There should be equal opportunities between all judges.
Because I'm very interested in these gray areas that you have uncovered now is very, very important for them to take note.
You see,
this is another different perspective.
We need not lose sight of the fact that we operate a federal system, although our federalism still carries a big question mark. What obtains in Nigeria that there are federal courts being funded by the federal government, payment of the salary of the judicial officers and all that. The costs being maintained by the state, the federal government does not pay a dime. It's the states that pay, the judges and so on. Now, what I advocate with some other people is that in as much as what we have presently is akin to what is in the US, let us implement it fully. We have said this over and over. In this reform in the judicial sector, let the states go ahead to have court of appeal of the states, maintained and funded by the states. Supreme Court of the states, maintained and funded by the states. Why we still have an overall Supreme Court of federal government? And then we also have scenario where the states are allowed to operate according to their capacity and capability. If you know, as a state government, you can have 30 judges. You can pay their salaries and ensure they dispense justice. Beautiful. You know why? Part of the challenges of this country, which you see part of why we are saying that there should be holistic reform, is that some people are denied access to justice. Yes. They feel they have grievances, but they don't have the means to go to court. They don't have the one without to go to court. They don't have the money to go to court. Even those that have one matter or the other, although in recent times the states have improved by having legal aid and so on to people, but at the same time, like someone who has a matter that has gone to the High Court, is not satisfied with what the High Court has said in terms of judgment, has gone to Court of Appeal, then he wants to go to Supreme Court, and there's only one in Abuja. You look at it, the number of years it may take for that matter to be heard by the Supreme Court, and the cost implication, he will decide to allow heaven to now do the appeal. These are areas that need to be properly...
Yeah, but Barisobio,
yes.
There's something that Barrister Deji pointed out.
Yes.
I think what he's advocating is that there ought to be, even though the federal government doesn't fix the entire, there should be a minimum acceptable wage for all the judges across the federation, so irrespective of the state. Because it will be very, very considerate for you to, a judge of the same caliber, earning 1 million in Lagos, and his counterpart in Zamfara is earning 100,000. So even though we know that the state capacity is not the same, but there should be a minimum wage that if you are a judge, you should be entitled, irrespective of the state you come from. That should be fixed by the federal government. I think that's what he said. And what is your opinion on that?
Yes, there is need for judges to earn reasonable salaries and remuneration. That is imperative. But you see, in practical terms, in Nigeria, the federal government came up with minimum wage
for judicial officers.
No, for workers.
No, there is not.
For workers, which the federal government implemented. Are you aware that some states are yet to implement it? The minimum wage, which is not even enough. The minimum wage of 30,000 that cannot buy half bag of rice. Some states could not implement it. Some states are still owing salaries of workers. These are the challenges. And why is that so? It's because in a nation like this, governors and governments, the state governments, depend on the allocations from Abuja, from the federal government, which is not supposed to be so. Only 14 states are viable in this country for now. What is the way forward? Decentralize. Restructure. Let the state go at their pace and let them go inwards. Go to agriculture, go to industry, go to other areas that will earn money. Let the issue of resource control be laid to rest once and for all.
All right.